Onda Magazine presenta.
Hello everyone, this is Monica Cusa with Que Onda Magazine, and as always I have an exclusive interview with Harris County District Attorney, Mr. Dan Simons. How are you, Mr. Simons?
I'm very good, Monica. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here this afternoon here at Que Onda.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm not district attorney yet. I'm a candidate for district attorney. But hopefully after November, I will be district attorney. We'll see.
I bet. Most likely you will. So I always like to start with your upbringing so that Que Onda Magazine audience can get to know you a little bit better. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your early childhood life and your background?
Absolutely. Now, I don't tell this story for sympathy. I tell this for inspiration to show that you don't have to settle. I grew up here in Texas. I was born in Galveston. Most of my childhood was spent over in Beaumont and Port Arthur area, where most of my childhood I was homeless. We lived in cars, tents, the motels, the occasional first month's rent when we had it.
Wow.
And at one point, the state of Texas stepped in the middle of the night, and CPS walked in and put me in foster care with my brothers and sister. And that was probably the most traumatic thing that happened to me at that time, coming from a broken family in poverty.
Right.
Once I got out of foster care, I moved in with a family that I met through the Salvation Army when I was 12 years old, just to have the opportunity to be the first to graduate high school in my family's history. Despite all the you can'ts and people telling me you can't do this or can't do that,
right.
I did manage to graduate fourth in my class. I was an all-district quarterback, but when I turned 18, I was told that, look, we can't afford you, you're on your own. So at the age of 18, I had a choice to make, and I joined the Air Force. I wanted to be a cop in the Air Force, and the reason I wanted to be a cop is because between the ages of 8 and 15, I was a child victim. You see, predators go after the poor, the vulnerable, and would you say the weak?
Right.
And I was not an exception, and I want to protect others, and that's one of the reasons. Now, after the military, I went into business for myself. Later on, at the age of 27, I went back to college. I graduated Sam Houston State University, #1 out of 1,108 students.
Wow.
I then got accepted to Thurgood Marshall, Texas Southern University here in Houston. And despite people saying, look, don't go there, you can't pass the bar from there, you certainly can't get a good job from there.
Really?
Well, as a child, there were two things that were not stripped from me. It was my honor, my integrity. And you dance with those who brought you. They gave me the opportunity. I did go to Thurgood Marshall. I did graduate from Thurgood Marshall. I passed the bar on the first try. And here I am running for Harris County District Attorney as probably the first Thurgood Marshall University District Attorney in Harris County history.
Wow.
But I didn't stop there. I went to University of Houston for a master's in tax law.
Oh my goodness.
And amazingly enough, I honestly did not plan on going into the DA's office to even do criminal law at all. That was not my plan.
Right.
And I got a job interview for the DA's office, and I was really hesitant. And I went in there for the first interview, and I was like, that's not bad. Second interview, okay. Well, the third interview was probably the most hostile interview I'd ever been a part of. They had about 30 high-ranking DA officials in a horseshoe shape, and I'm sitting in the middle, and they're just bombarding me with questions.
Right.
Well, I start interviewing them, going, what do I get out of it? And some of them took offense to that. But for me, hey, I've got other options. And as I'm leaving, I was told, hey, we'll be in touch in a few weeks. The very next day, they offered me the job.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. And they said, look, come watch one of our courts and see if it's something you want to do. And I went down there and I shadowed a court. And within an hour, I made the decision to turn down a 6-figure income for $60,000 because I'd never felt more at home. It was the right place for me. When I saw across the audience where you have a lot of defendants sitting, I didn't see defendants, I saw people. And most of the prosecutors that go to the DA's office, they go from college, law school, into the DA's office.
Right.
I had 12 years of business experience and a lifetime of experience prior to getting a law degree. So I came from a different, my eyes, I see things a little differently.
Right.
I did the DA's office for 3.5 years, 3 years under Devin Anderson, 6 months under Kim Ogg. I tried over 70 cases. I think the average in there for that same span is right around 20, 25 cases. But I've been a workhorse my entire life. I may not be smarter than you, but I will outwork you.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I've gotten to where I am in life is just outworking people. And this is what I think the DA's office needs.
Yeah.
I left the DA's office. I went into criminal practice. I do criminal defense. I've had my own business for a total combined prior and afterwards 16 years. I hate working for people because I trust me. I pay my bills. I know how to balance a budget. I know how to hire. I know how to train.
Right.
And the DA's office needs that.
Yeah.
We need somebody that actually can run a business in there. So, and I've been very successful. And in fact, if I get elected in November, I will actually be taking a pay cut. But more importantly, what I tell people is this. It's not that I don't want to be the prosecutor. I want to be the district attorney for many reasons, but the main reason is I know that I can fix Harris County. I know I can really give real change to Harris County, not the fake justice reform we've seen for the last 8 years that has plagued us. I could really make a difference. I don't think there's ever been a district attorney candidate that comes from my background with everything that I bring to it.
Right.
Former prosecutor, defense attorney, 16 years in business. I know what it means to be falsely accused and to fight your way and to prove your innocence.
Yeah, that's
more importantly, I know what it means to be a real victim, a child victim. I don't talk third person. This is all first person. And I don't think there's ever been a candidate running that has all those things to bring into the DA's office from day one. So that's a little bit about my background.
Wow. That's a touching story, and you have a lot of experiences that you can definitely bring to the DA office that can help the DA office, because I know it needs a lot of help. And you're going to tell us a little bit more about those changes that you will implement in the, let's say, the first 3 months of your, if you win. So having now that we heard about your childhood, I mean, it was tough growing up, definitely. How would you say that influenced your decision in going to a law career?
Well, it took those experiences and all the hardships that I had to overcome that persuaded me to get a law degree. I hated being victimized. I hated people taking advantage of my goodwill, because I still honor the handshake. You shake my hand, that means something to me.
Right.
And there are just too many people out there to take advantage of that. And that's what happened to me. And I said, I'm tired of this. I'm going to do something about it. I want to be able to protect myself and others. So I want a law degree. That's what all started it. And yet I find myself here in Harris County running for one of the largest counties in the entire country for district attorney, to where I can serve our community in a way that I don't think other people can really see. So I think all those experiences is what has prepared me for this very moment. Right.
For a lot of people, they don't really know what's the DA office. Okay. How would you explain that to someone that don't know?
So let's take the DA's office from the very basic.
Okay.
Right now, there's a lot of mistrust in law enforcement. In the community, a lot of mistrust with the judges and the DA's office. But we're just going to live in a hypothetical world that everything works right and everybody gets along and everybody's trustworthy. Let's say that you're in the parking lot and somebody robs you. You call the cops, officers arrive. They're going to investigate the scene, and then let's say they catch the person. They catch him down the street, and you identify them. Mm-hmm. They will put everything together and look at all the elements, and they'll call the DA's office. So the DA's office now is all just criminal. They will basically, you call in for an intake. An intake is kind of a screening for the DA's office. Not every county in the state of Texas does this, but the big counties usually do it to make sure that people aren't being arrested erroneously, or if there's more investigation needs to be done for those cases.
Right.
So they will call in and they'll talk to a prosecutor at intake. And the prosecutor will go through the elements, identify the victim, the date, the time, what actually happened, the defendant, identify all these things. There was a force used, was there anybody injured? Because every element's different.
Right.
Like shoplifting, steal a Twinkies and run out, shoplifting. Theft, below $1,500, whatever it is nowadays. But if there's using force as they leave, now we have robbery. If they have a weapon in their hand, a deadly weapon, now we're talking about ag robbery. So there's different things that you got to make sure you go through and qualify what charge to take, whether it be the misdemeanor or the felony. So that's how the intake process works. So the officer calls in, says, look, I've got this. I found the person to be credible and reliable. Now they take it and accept the charges. The person that gets arrested, They take them down to the county jail, process them in. Now they'll go before a magistrate. A magistrate will decide probable cause and set bond.
Oh,
Then they
okay.
will get a date in court
Mm-hmm.
to show up if they post bond, or they're usually in court the next couple of days if they don't post bond. Now the DA's office assigns it, the charge assigned to it in a court, and there are prosecutors assigned to each court. It'll fall on their desk, and that prosecutor in that court will follow up with the victim, follow up with law enforcement, make sure they get all the evidence, and start collecting, because the defense attorney is going to come in wanting to see everything, which is right. So you now are working into the system. Now you're going to go to court multiple times, but it's the DA's job to continue, make sure they have everything they need to go with a good charge. Now, if it is a bad charge, they have to, okay, why is it? What's wrong with this? What's going on here? It's really, really, we have to be really careful. We just don't go and charge somebody that should not be charged, or we fail to take a charge when we should have,
Right.
which I think we're seeing a lot right now with a lot of people calling the police, and the police just not, like, I'm going to call down to the DA's office and they're going to deny it, or the judge magistrate court's going to find no probable cause.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things that came up in the news recently about intake in the DA's office were actually not necessarily the DA's fault. It goes to the judges that didn't find probable cause, because the DA's office doesn't find probable cause. It's a magistrate judge. So
Interesting.
a charge, an event happens, they want charges at an intake, it goes into a court, the prosecutor looks at it, screens it, and it goes through the process to either, could be where a prosecutor's only job is to seek justice. There's two things that a good prosecutor does: seek justice for victims in the state of Texas, protect a defendant's rights. You have to protect, because they're not protecting just the defendant's rights, they're protecting your rights too.
Right.
So that's what a prosecutor does.
Okay.
Now, there's outcomes. It could be dismissed.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes you see cases coming out all the time, like, in the interest of justice, it's just a bad charge, shouldn't be done. Or it could be a plea bargain for a pretrial diversion, depending on the criminal history, if there's any at all. If it's a low-level offense, such as misdemeanor versus a high-level offense like a rape, robbery, murder, something like that, drug case. It could be a deferred adjudication or probation, or in some instances, jail time, or some instances, prison, or the death penalty. Those are all the different things that can happen to a case depending on what it is. And these are all, I mean, the prosecutor has a tremendous amount of power. They can really decide a case or dismiss it. So you have to have the right prosecutors that have the right discipline to do the right thing. And the DA's office needs integrity all the time.
Right.
You have to do the right thing, whether somebody's looking or not. It doesn't matter. You treat everybody equally, whether you're the county judge or you're homeless. Nobody gets treated differently. You're all treated the same. And everybody in the community should rest assured that's exactly what I intend to do. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't get favorable treatment because of who you are.
Right.
If you don't do it for one, you don't do it for anybody. And what you're willing to do for one person, you better be willing to do for everybody else.
Definitely. It's a long process. It's a very long process.
I kind of went a little far into it, but...
No, but it's very interesting. I mean, a lot of people, they don't really know. I mean, how long is the process and everything that, all the steps that, you know.
Well, there's another part in there too. In the DA's office, there's a victims advocacy group that'll reach out to victims, because you want a liaison.
Okay.
Somebody that calls victims, and it will be between the victim and the prosecutor. So we want to keep that relationship. We want to keep the victims involved.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of mistrust out there. There's 287,000 cases that weren't even filed. Over 4,000 rape cases that weren't even followed up.
Wow.
This is the state we're in right now, and I can tell you that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And of course, the other issue is the bonds issue. We've got to do what we can to give the judges everything we need to get higher bonds for these violent offenders. Right now, it's just a revolving door. I mean, a lot of these people are getting arrested and they're back out on bond before the officer gets off their shift.
Wow.
And the communities most affected by this bond situation we have in Harris County the last 4 and 8 years are the Hispanic communities and the Black communities. We've got to fix that, and that's why there's a lot of mistrust right now.
A lot of mistrust, and
we're gonna fix that.
We're gonna fix that for sure. So let's say that you win the elections in November.
I'm very optimistic. Let's say when you win in November.
When you win in November, let's say it like that. When you win in November, what would be the first 3 things that you would right away start working on and changing?
The first thing that I want to do is to make sure every prosecutor down there understands who I am. So I start matching everybody with their strengths. So we get prosecutors where they need to be. I need to bring in another 150 prosecutors because there's a massive backlog of cases and trials, and they're well understaffed right now.
Wow.
I want to go out and get experienced prosecutors. We want to be competitive in pricing as far as salaries and stuff. We need all the help we can get because this is not a one-person job. This is going to take an army of people, and I need people like-minded.
Yeah.
I don't need people that are just so with the blinders on. This is what we're doing. I need people to look at both sides and see things and do things right. We need to seek justice for every case individually on its own merits. It's not a blanket, hey, do these and get this. No, we want everybody, because every victim that is filed, they deserve justice. Every defendant down there deserves their right to be protected. So I need the help there. The intake, what I want to do is have seasoned prosecutors staffing that. We can go back to a volunteer basis to where you get overtime because you don't get a lot of money being a prosecutor. It really is a job that is rewarding in itself, and it's just more gratification, like doing your job. And it's not we're getting rewarded for a lot of money.
Right.
So it takes dedicated persons. I want to go all around to the different counties that have poached prosecutors from Harris County, bring them back as much as I can, put the right people in the right place. Now that I've fixed the internal structure and we're having training for every prosecutor there, and we're set in a situation to where we can have every court staffed, now we can talk about bridging the gap with law enforcement, bridging the gap with the judges, and bridging the gap with all the different entities throughout Harris County. Because like I said, this is not my office. This is Harris County's office. I work for you. And I need all the different liaisons and everybody to reach out to the DA's office, say, look, here's where we can improve. Like, let's take the Hispanic community, for instance. I want to make sure that we have right officers, right liaisons, reaching out to the Hispanic community, going, look, if you're a victim of a crime, do not be afraid to come forward. I care, because crime does not discriminate. It doesn't matter where you're from, if you're here legally or illegally or whatever your status is, it does not matter. You deserve to be still live in peace and not be a victim of a crime. I want to ensure everybody that, look, I'm here to help. So that's the next step. As far as law enforcement, I want to be able to train every agency and have like an intake prosecutor go and say, hey, when you call in, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're asking. We're not trying to be mean to you by saying we're rejecting your charge. We're just telling you, here's the problem with it. Here's why. We have to give people the why. Because as we become more educated, we all rise together. And I think training is a very important part of the DA's office. We have to have more training. We've got to have people in there that understand all walks of life. Hey, we can make a difference. Sometimes, first-time offender, let's give them a break. Let's give them a second chance. But see, you can't give a handout. It has to be earned. Something earned is something kept.
Definitely.
And some of the pretrial diversion programs have less rates of persons reoffending. Why? Because if they already have a conviction, they're more likely to reoffend because they don't care.
Right.
So, but that's only certain instances. That isn't for everybody, because some people just don't get it. And those are the ones we got to protect our community from. The ones that are out there shooting, gangbanging. We've got so much drugs coming from the border into Houston because this is the gateway. We've got human trafficking. We've got crimes against animals. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to pay attention to at the DA's office. And right now, it still needs to be, the county needs to invest more into it. Think of it this way. Let's say Houston's just forming and there's one fire department. 10 years later, Houston gets bigger. Still one fire department. 20 years later, Houston gets bigger. Still one fire department. 100 years later, one fire department. Well, guess what? It's so big, it has to grow with it. And we haven't seen that. And I think that's what really frustrated Kim Long too, because as the courts are growing and the county's growing and everywhere else is growing, she wasn't allowed to grow. So I'm going to have to bridge the gap with Commissioner's Court as well, that we have to have the funding to do our job. The number one job of all elected officials is public safety. And they have all failed miserably in Harris County, whether they can not work together or what's going on. Because, Monica, let me ask you this. How safe do you feel right now in Harris County?
It's hard to say.
Do you feel safe enough to go walk in the park at night?
Not at night, no.
Do you feel safe enough to go down to the Galleria Mall with your kids and the movies and things like that in the evening?
No.
It should not be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to have that. A lot of people lock their doors up at night early.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses close shop and have a little window to where you go to a convenience store, you got to walk to the window, stand outside because they lock their doors.
Right.
We have an accountability issue in Harris County. People aren't being held accountable, and we can fix that from day one. So you've got the DA's office, bridging the gap, and the third most important, I need to hold people accountable for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Once we hold people accountable, then we can decide what to do with it. But until you do that, there's nothing you can do, whether it get them help or send them to prison.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to make that choice until you hold them accountable. So you have to go out there and hold people accountable for their actions and stop holding you responsible for their actions.
Right.
This is their problem, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery County mocks us. They got a big billboard that says, "Welcome to Montgomery County. We prosecute crimes." Why do you think they're saying that? A lot of people that commit crimes always ask officers, "Are we in Harris County?" Because they don't want to be in Montgomery County. They know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is the issue. We've created pretty much a sanctuary safe haven for criminals.
Yeah.
We have to end that, but it takes a DA's office that sets the standard to get law enforcement to know we got your back to do your job, and that'll translate to people and victims knowing you're going to be taken care of by a DA's office that cares for you. It starts at the top. You can't build from an all law enforcement because they can do all they want, but if you don't have a DA's office prepared to do what they're supposed to do, it's never going to go anywhere. So this is the most important job in Harris County for law enforcement because it decides what happens and holding people accountable.
But you said something interesting about the DA office being understaffed. That has to do with a budget thing, or why? Why is understaffed?
So with the situation right now, it's a pretty rough environment, and a lot of people are unhappy. You have to create a positive work environment. A lot of people are just disenfranchised, but they're not getting the help. They're not getting what they need. And Kim has done a lot of what she could do to save this. And then as people leave, get fed up and leave, now you have a court with 3 people down to 2, and some courts down to 1. And now they're burdened with that entire workload. Now they're getting all the work, and that right there, that's how you lose people. So you have to create a positive work environment. I want to get rid of all the antics in the DA's office. This is not a high school. This is not about going in and drama. Right. I want to remove that. We all work together. And in my office, you don't move up with how you step on everybody's head to get to the top.
Correct.
You move up in my office by reaching your hand down and helping the person below you up to your level. You do that, we all grow together. We all have to be helping each other. I have I'm talking about absolute zero tolerance policy for bullying. Any office bullying, you'll be escorted out of the building that same day. I know what that means in the DA's office. That is over. Once we get rid of that and get rid of the drama, you will have more prosecutors want to come to work there. I want to create an atmosphere where people are excited to come to work. This job is an exciting job. It has a tremendous power, but it has a lot of reward too. And I want to ensure every prosecutor down there that you've got a DA that has your back. We're going to work together on this. We're going to fix this together. This is how we create an environment to where we can staff the entire office. Yeah. Once we get that 150 or whatever we need, we still need to get more because they're expanding the courts down there. Another 3 federal district courts are coming. We have to staff those. Each court requires usually 4 people. You've got the chief, you got the 2, you got the 3, and you got a paralegal. Then you have an investigator that's assigned to each, so we have to expand that too. And then as we have more crime happening in Harris County, the victims groups has to be expanded. So we have to invest in public safety, and the DA's office is the best place to invest it because it all trickles down. Right. Then we have the crime lab. We got to make sure they're doing their job because if we're outsourcing things, that's a problem. Yes, now you got to have those experts come in. That costs money. There's ways to save a ton of money, and Harris County should be the standard for law enforcement. Everybody in the country should be looking at Harris County on how it works. I want to create that atmosphere. That's how we're going to fix it.
That's amazing. I think that we have the winner here. Definitely. So what would you say? Do you have any final words for Que Onda Magazine and the Hispanic community? Would you like to look at the camera and tell them whatever you feel they need to know and get them to go out and vote in November for you?
Like I said, I have been doing a lot of things my entire life on my own. I've never asked for help from anybody. I find myself in this position now that I have to ask the help of everybody, because I'm not running for district attorney for just one party or one elite group in Harris County. I'm running for district attorney for the entire county. That includes everyone out there. That includes you. You need a DA that's going to listen to you. As a victim, you got to have someone that's going to listen, that's going to be a voice for you, and it's going to stand side by side and protect you. This is what the job of the DA is. We have to set the standard in Harris County. You're going to be held accountable for the actions, and victims need to know that you've got a DA's office that's going to do everything to get you justice. I want to give everybody out there full transparency of the DA's office. We can fix this. And I stand for three things: justice, integrity, and safety. What that means is justice for victims, integrity to our office, and safety to our community. In other words, I'm going to bring justice to criminals. We're going to bring integrity to the process, and we're going to bring safety to our streets. This is what I promise you I will deliver you. I have worked my entire life to get here. I've overcome obstacle after obstacle. And if I can do this, you can certainly do this. We can do this together, and we can make a safe environment for you, your kids, your businesses. And that's something else we didn't touch on, businesses for a moment. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of food trucks out there being vandalized. You have people attacking them. You've got people pulling a gun and robbing them. If you create the atmosphere we've got right now, businesses are not going to be inclined to come here. If you don't have a DA that protects businesses, their assets, their staff, they're not going to want to invest in our community. No. In fact, businesses are going to leave. And the people that are affected the most by that are going to be the Hispanic and the Black community. Yeah. You have to have a DA that's going to protect your business, protect your assets. And I can promise you, we will hold everybody accountable for their actions. We can do this together, and we can make a difference. So give me the opportunity. My name is Dan Simons. I'm running to be the first Thurgood Marshall, Texas Southern District Attorney in Harris County history. With my entire background, coming from foster care to DA, I promise you, I will not let you down. You can find more information about me at danforda.com. Thank you, and I hope I earned your vote for November.
Thank you, Mr. Simon, so much. It's been a great honor and pleasure having you here for this interview, and thank you for your service as well. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Until the next one, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Que Onda Magazine presentó